Welcome everyone to the Yo Bro Gaming Review channel. I am Zach, and this is episode number 2 of my Road to WrestleMania series. Before I get into this review, there's a few things I want to go over and get out of the way. Usually I do them at the end of the videos, but I don't know who all actually sticks around to the end. So I want to get this out there and get it up front, and that is 2 things. One, and if you look in the description, you'll see that, and I'll go talk about this again at the end of the video, but we have a link to our new Facebook channel. You can find us now on Facebook at Yo Bro Gaming and Reviews. That's on Facebook. You can just look us up that way. Also, our new Twitter page. It is us at Yo Bro Gaming 1. So those are the 2 new locations you can find us. Of course, Punisher Slayer 19 is still Wayne's PlayStation Network account name. You can still go there and still play him on the PlayStation Network. So today's episode is the number 9 WrestleMania, and just in case you weren't familiar, I will say this again, probably even in the next one, just make sure people who've seen it remember, this is my top 10 favorite WrestleManias of all time. Last week was WrestleMania 23. This week is WrestleMania 13. This one was at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, Illinois, March 23rd, 1997. Now, this was before I actually got back into watching wrestling full time. So, yes, I had to go back and watch this after I started watching wrestling the following year. But this one was special to me when I watched it because the fact that it emanated from my home state. It had been the first time in, I think it was 11 years. WrestleMania 2 was the last time they had one in Chicago, and even then it was only a partial because it only had the Piper fight. So that made this special for me because of that reason. This was also one of the last times they used the classic WrestleMania theme. This was Vince McMahon's final WrestleMania announcement because later that year he went on to become the Mr. McMahon character and was no longer calling the pay-per-views. You also had Todd Pettengill. It was his final WrestleMania. This was literally the changing of the guard from the McMahon, the gimmick era, if you want to. Because you had the golden era with Hogan and Savage and DiBiase and Steamboat and all of them who were a part of that. And then you went into the gimmick era, which was kind of slow. So McMahon knew he had to change things. And to be honest with you, I really do believe that WrestleMania 13 was the shift for everything. It didn't make the complete 160 that you saw transfer into the Attitude Era, but it was a big contributor because of one of the matches that happened that night. And we'll get to that. I don't want to jump ahead, but this is the 9th best WrestleMania that I ever saw. So I'm going to go over the card. Of course, this opened up with a package about, WrestleMania and part of it, a little bit of its history. And it had that Attitude Era feel to it. And it was a nice little opening promo. But it kicked off with a match that wasn't exactly great. You started off with a 4-team elimination match. The winners of this match would get a title match on Raw the next night. And your teams were the Godwins, Doug Furnas, and Philip LaFon. Yes, I have notes. I'm going to do this. I've already explained this in my previous video. I'm going to do this every time I watch a pay-per-view. Then you had the Headbangers, who were one of the teams that I liked during the Attitude Era. They weren't necessarily the best team, but they were funny to watch, them in their grunge look. And then you had the New Blackjacks. This was one of the many different gimmicks that poor JBL had to go through before he was finally recognized as a legit guy. But that was, I don't know which Wyndham. I think it was Kendall. I don't know. I think it was Kendall Wyndham and Bradshaw were the New Blackjacks. They even had a little interview, and it was so WWE 1997. But that's okay. So this match pretty much started as a brawl. All 4 teams, they just went for each other. They didn't hold back. They went straight at it. And this was a match where anyone could tag in anybody, which a lot of the Fatal 4-Ways that they used to do back in that time, and some recently, you have to tag in people, and you could tag in your own partner. There was actually a point in this match where Mosh and Thrasher were in the ring at the same time. Now, did they fight? No, they just did the little jump up bump and acted like a couple of fools. But Bradshaw and Wyndham in this match used their physicality and their power in this match to just brutalize anyone who was in the ring with them. Now, the match it itself didn't last very long. You had a part in the match where Bradshaw was supposed to suplex, I believe it was Thrasher, outside the ring. No, it was LaFon. He was supposed to suplex him outside the ring, but he botched it bad. Like, it's like he was trying to protect him, but a little too much, where he kind of toppled over, and then Bradshaw fell out. Excuse me. Then, yeah, LaFon and Furnace, I'm calling him Furnace, Furnace, whatever. They were brawling outside with the Blackjacks. They both got counted out, so they were both disqualified and both sent to the back, which left just the Headbangers and the Godwins. And the Godwins just pounded these guys. They just treated them like garbage, slapped them around. That was when the Godwins were still a relevant team and still good, but they weren't there. Oh, yuck. They had more grit, more aggressiveness to them at this time than when they did the previous year at WrestleMania, when I think they faced the Smoking Guns. I'm probably wrong, but that WrestleMania is getting covered in a few videos. Yeah, they were Smash Mouth. They just kept hitting them. And the Headbangers, when they would get the advantage, they were just being goofy and being themselves. They did a lot of aerial offense. A couple times, they would do something from, like, bouncing from the corner over the ropes, which you see a lot lately. Saw a lot with the Cruiserweights in WCW. But this match ultimately ended with a flying senton when Hillbilly Jim was up on the ropes talking to the referee. Mosh ended up hitting Midian with a flying senton and got a pin and won the match, and they went on and did not win the titles that night. They win the titles, but that's a little later on. And that was basically that match. So, like I said, it was a good match. It wasn't like the best tag team match. I think it was just to give those teams something to do, because for a couple of them, it was their first WrestleMania appearance, and actually, it was their only WrestleMania appearances for Mosh and Thrasher and the Blackjacks, because Bradshaw went on the next year to... No, wait, he was in the Battle Royal the next year, but I think with a different partner. I think it was Barry the next year. So they start talking about different Hall of Famers that are there, and you end up seeing Captain Lou Albano in the crowd, just having fun. He was enjoying himself. It was 1997. He was still young and able to walk. And in the ring, you had the Honky Tonk Man, and he ended up coming down ringside to do commentary for the next match. And yeah, that song, man, still just don't like it. Just a honky tonk man, he's a honky tonk man. Just a honky tonk man, he's a honky tonk man. I blah 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 blah. Shut up. So the next match was for the Intercontinental Championship, and it was Rocky Maivia defending against the Sultan, Rikishi Fatu, who he had Iron Sheik and Bob Backlund. First of all, Rikishi is not Arabic. He's Samoan. I get it. It was coming towards the end of the gimmick era. Sorry, I was stumbling a little bit. It was the end of the gimmick era, so I understand, and that's fine. But I just thank God they treated Rikishi better come 99, late 98 into 99. Thank God they did better to him. But yes, and they were trying to push The Rock at the time. Rocky Maivia, for those who don't know, is The Rock. That was his name when he first debuted in 96 at Survivor Series. They were pushing him hard to be the next face. The fans weren't taking to it at the time. It's kind of like a Roman Reigns situation now. The Rock was pegged to be the next guy, but Austin was over as the genuine face that everyone liked, and The Rock was being pushed. But the difference at that time, which I'll talk about when I talk about WrestleMania 14 video, yes, WrestleMania 14 is going to be one, they turned him face. Because in this match, he does this little number, trying to get the crowd into it. The fans had none of it. They were booing The Rock. Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. So the fans just weren't having it. But let's talk about the match itself. This match, it was lame for the most part. It had a slow pace. It was Rock's first WrestleMania, and like I said, the crowd was not into him. He was trying to get him in at the beginning, but then Fatu pretty much punched him in the mouth. Rock tried a little bit of offense, but then Rikishi, I'm going to call him Rikishi because Sultan, it's just not who he is. Rikishi in this match, as Sultan, was pretty much, he had a slow, methodical pace, a lot of hard-hitting moves. Like, there's a point where he climbs to the top rope and just comes down with his headbutt. Only, it was a short, it was like, neep. But you get what I mean. Rikishi, like I said, he was in control. He had the methodical pace. Another question. He wore the mask, right? Was the ponytail on that mask, was it real or was it a fake ponytail? I'm curious. I don't know. I was kind of wondering that last night when I was watching it. It's a dumb question, but hey. So there was a point in the match where Rikishi, the Sultan, was hitting The Rock, and The Rock was starting to hulk up. He kept getting up, and then he starts doing that. Another thing, they used The Rock as a high flyer at this point. His finishing maneuver was literally a diving crossbody. A crossbody was his finishing maneuver. Rock is a big Samoan guy, not a high flyer, but that's what they tried to market him as. The face, he's got to do something high flying, right? No. But, yeah, he started fighting back, started to gain advantage. He hit a belly-to-belly, and then he climbed to the top rope, and he did his crossbody, but the Sheik got up there, and he interfered, and then freaking Backlund started getting involved. So then Rikishi, Sultan took back over. He tried to get his finishing maneuver in, but The Rock ended up reversing into a schoolboy and got the win. He rose to the outside, was supposed to do an interview with JR, but that didn't happen. It got cut short pretty quick. And Sultan got in, and then Sheik and Backlund, they were all fighting him. And then here comes Rocky Johnson, The Rock's daddy. His real-life daddy comes in the ring. He starts fighting him. They start beating him up. And then The Rock gets up, and then they clear the ring. They both do scoop slams on the Sheik. Dude was a little old. I don't think he needed scoop slams. It probably messed him up even more. So then they clear the ring, and you have The Rock's WrestleMania moment. He's still the champion. He's got his WrestleMania moment with his dad there. Because this was their plan. Rocky Maivia was going to be the next big thing, but it just didn't happen that way. We had to wait a couple years for the people's champion to truly arrive. But let's keep going. I don't want to harp on one thing for too long. My last one was a 40-minute video, which I'm cool. I like talking about wrestling. Wrestling is my passion. I love professional wrestling. And this is a big weekend. This is Fastlane weekend. Not that Fastlane itself is going to be a big show. But we're talking WrestleMania, man. We're talking best of WrestleManias. At least in my opinion. You're probably thinking I'm stupid. WrestleMania 13. God, dude. Let's keep going. So, they interviewed Ken Shamrock. And Shamrock at the time was just coming out from being in the UFC. And he was making a few appearances because he was going to be the referee for the Bret Hart-Steve Austin match. And, of course, Todd Pettengill was the lead backstage guy. So, he got to interview him. First thing he asked him about his little altercation with Billy Gunn. He's like, look, I put him in an ankle lock just to show him who the hell I was. Wasn't trying to hurt him. And then he talks about the threats that Bret and Austin said out. If he gets too much involved, they'll have no problem stopping and beating him up. And he's like, hey, I'm the law. I'm the authority. They're going to respect me. And I'm going to do what I want. And so he wouldn't be intimidated. Switch my notes over. Calm down. It's all right. Then you had Doc Hendricks, Michael P.S. Hayes, Fabulous Freebirds, the The Freebirds, woo! You know who I'm talking about. If you don't, they're going to be in the Hall of Fame this year. Watch. But he interviewed Triple H and Chyna. This was when Chyna first came into the World Wrestling Federation. And he asked about his relationship with Chyna. And is she a manager or a partner or whatever? And Triple H says, my relationship with Chyna is none of your business. He says Marlena, all she had to do, because he was having a match with Goldust this night. And he was wanting Marlena to be his new manager because he didn't have Sable anymore. And he had a thing for hot little women at the time. And he said Marlena just had to say yes, but she turned him down. So what was going to happen is going to happen. And that she was going to be worse off than even Goldust would be in this match. So then the match itself happens. Triple H comes out with Chyna. Then Goldust and his little thing with the glitter and the lights and the special motion that he had came out with Marlena. And Goldust, he's kind of started this off just kind of sitting there, looking at him, kind of like he was in the pouncing position, like he was ready to just go at him. And then he did. He just went at him, started punching him. And he was, Goldust, up to this point, had never seen Goldust this aggressive. At this point, it was, and the touching and the weirdness that he used to do, the mind games, that was Goldust thing, but not so much in this match. He was very, focused. This is around the time they first started to reveal that Marlena was Dustin Reynolds, or Dustin Rhodes, if you wanted to call him that, because that was his daddy's name. They were really pushing that they were a real-life couple at this time. Of course, then a few months later, they broke them off from each other and ended up with fucking Luna. Also, you'll hear about that later. But, it got to a point where okay, note taken, too much words. He got Triple H on the outside, tied up in the ropes, and he just came in and he just starts punching him in the face. Just keep going. And look, I know wrestling's fake, but it looked good. This match, on paper, was like the second best wrestling match of the night. It was that good. But then, of course, Triple H, he took control. He had this methodical pace where he just started working over Goldust little by little. The match at points was very back and forth, and then one or the other would get advantage. Mainly Triple H throughout this match. He had that advantage. He worked on Goldust. And one of the best parts was King's commentary in this match. I forgot to mention, the announce team had Vince McMahon, but this was also the first WrestleMania with JR and the King. And I miss King heel commentator. The quick-wittedness that he had, the shots he would take at performers like Chyna. He was talking about, because Marlena is this director that, lots of directors would want Chyna because if they ever wanted to do that, Into the Mist movie, Gorillas Into the Mist, well, they could just do that in Chyna's shower, implying that she's a dude that looks like an ape, if you didn't catch that. And it was fucking hilarious. Pardon my language. But, so, like I said, they had a really good match. There was lots of near falls. It wasn't like nowadays where you see finisher, kick out, finisher, kick out. No, it's power move, kick out, DDT, kick out, submission holds. Just lots of kicking out, lots of near falls and false finishes. Goldust ended up taking control back. Chyna started making her way over towards Marlena. Goldust was going to attempt, the curtain call. But when he saw Chyna, right there in front of Marlena, he just drops Triple H. He walks over, he picks up Marlena to protect her, and Chyna's just standing there. This was before Chyna was hot. If you haven't seen this, go back on the WWE Network. Watch Chyna from 97 to about early 2000 or early 1999. Sorry. But Triple H runs, he knees Goldust in the back. She gets knocked off the apron right into Chyna's arms, where Chyna just grabs her and just starts fucking shaking her, just like she's some freaking rag doll. Triple H ends up, after that, pedigree, gets the win, and then she just drops her. And you're left with the match when they walk away, Goldust holding Marlena in his arms, all dramatic. and then he carries her off to the back. It was good storytelling in this match. The way that they told the story, the way that the ending was, he's going to do it. Oh, heel got over because of whatever. And it kind of owed Triple H because the year before, we'll talk about it, 96 WrestleMania. So, the tag team titles were on the line. Vader and Mankind, probably one of the most unlikely teams you would have ever seen. They came out with Paul Bearer. Then here comes the Bulldog and Goldust. One of the best tag teams in WWE history. There for about 2 years, they were the team. All the way up till Brett Screwjob at the Survivor Series. Bulldog left, and Owen was kind of left. He was the last man standing. But they came out, and they were talking about how they had problems. So JR ran up to interview him, and he asked the Bulldog, how do you feel about Owen saying that you're dumb and he's the smart one and the leader? And before he could answer, Owen being Owen, are you trying to start stuff? Trying to accuse me? And Bulldog's like, you said it on live TV, but we're the tag team champions. He's got 2 Slammies. I got 2 belts, because he was also the European champion. This was when the European Championship had just came into play. We're going to keep our belts, and they did. But we'll get to that. So, this was one of the unique situations where both teams were a heel going into a match. Vader, straight up, right from the bat, just knocked Owen down. Vader and Mick had a good hold on this match throughout, because Vader was this dominant guy who could just maul anybody. And then, he'd had the match at Fatal 4 at the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view. It wasn't called Fatal 4-Way. It was a 4 corners match. But, Final 4. Thank you, Final 4. And he was supposed to be more vicious because he got screwed in the match. So on and so forth. But, the brawl broke out pretty early in the match, where all 4 were in there. There's points where they tried to double team Bulldog, but Bulldog showed, hey, I'm not some scrawny dude, I can take you, and he clotheslined both of them, but then they would take back advantage with Owen. The match was a really good tag team match. I was fairly surprised going back and watching this and seeing how well these 2 teams really did work together. And like I said, it was a good match. You had the great chemistry between Bulldog and Owen, and then you had the unlikely team who really did mesh well together, and Mick Foley, Mankind, and Vader. Vader is an underappreciated, underrated guy when he was in the WWE. If you got him back when he was still in the WWF, or the WCW, they knew his potential, and they made him a world champion. In fact, that's who Sting had to beat to win a world championship. It was actually while Ric Flair was gone. So Bulldog at one point reversed the suplex onto Vader, showing, I'm a big guy, I'm strong too. But you saw the superiority as far as which one was the better team. But the match ends up ending where a brawl's breaking out in the ring. Mick's got the mandible claw. He ends up getting outside the ring with Bulldog, puts the mandible claw back on him, and ends up getting a double count out. And then after the match, they just beat up Bulldog and Owen and left him there. Owen, while I have the chance, was one of the best wrestlers ever on that card. He should be a Hall of Famer, and it's a shame that from all signs, he's probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame this year. But much love, much respect for Owen Hart. Same with the Bulldog. Both men deserve to be Hall of Famers, and I think Bulldog will be in probably before Owen. But both, I think they should be inducted as a tag team, because both are Intercontinental Champions. Both were multiple-time tag team champions together, and they were part of the Hart Foundation when you had US versus Canada. They were big influences on what led into the Attitude Era, and it just showed in this match. So then they did the promo for Brett and Austin. It was a well-put-together promo, chronicling Brett's loss of sanity, going into craziness, how he felt he was being screwed. And this was a storyline on TV, but Brett also really felt this way. This was close to the time he was going to leave and jump ship to WCW. And he never intended for things to go the way they did. But this was the match that literally set the tone for what would become the Attitude Era. Although at this time, Vince was still very hesitant about going full-on TV 14, let's get this, we gotta win. Because WCW was beating them at this time. They were in the middle of their 90-some-odd week run at number 1 over WWF, or WWE. But both men came out, both had decent ovations. This match, to put it into words, oh man, was just phenomenal. This match and everything that happened in it. Right off the bat, Austin, he went out right at Brett. They ended up brawling outside the ring for a good little bit. Probably a good 5 minutes. They were outside in the ring, just going at it. And finally, they end up in the ring, and Brett immediately is going for Austin's leg. And while they were outside the ring, they were just vicious and violent. This was not a wrestling match like you were used to Brett. You saw a more vicious side of Bret Hart in this match, and it was great. I had watched old matches of Bret. I remember seeing Bret when I was younger, when he was still part of the Hart Foundation with Jim Neidhart. And he never looked at him that way. And even when I watched older WrestleManias, Bret was a very calm, cool, collected guy. But something about his thing with Austin just brought the worst out in Bret Hart. And then what was starting off as work, this really became a shoot between these guys. And between Bret and Vince, and how Bret felt like, hey, why am I being pushed to the side? And it all started at WrestleMania the year before. But back to the match. Like I said, they ended up in the ring. They fought through the crowd. It was crazy. But Bret gets in the ring with Austin, and he just immediately starts working on his leg. He had complete control. He was the man in this match, just working on Austin, working on Austin, working on Austin. Let me pull this over here so I don't have to keep looking that way. So, he's fighting with Austin, and he's got Austin just kind of wheeling, getting the knee. He actually pulls Austin down at one point, puts him in a figure 4. It was the first time you saw this, but he did it a few times afterwards. Puts Austin in a figure 4 with his legs wrapped around the post, which I imagine probably don't feel comfortable when you got your legs coming down like this, and there's that pressure, and you got the post right there. Bret tried to break his ankle by putting a chair on his ankle. Went to the top rope, but Austin got up, grabbed the chair, and just whack right on Bret, knocking Bret down. And he took control over Bret for a couple of minutes. He even tried putting Bret in the sharpshooter. Bret tried putting him in the sharpshooter, but he got his eyes raked. They end up back on the outside of the ring and started brawling again. And this is the part that set up the most infamous, the most famous, the most memorable point of any WrestleMania. The moment that defined Steve Austin. When he gets thrown into the barrier, at this time it was still the steel mesh that WCW continued to use for a while. And then they eventually switched over to the barricades that you see now. Sort of. They're collapsible. But anyways, Bret tries to throw him in. Austin kind of got tripped up a little bit going into, because he had the timekeeper's table and a couple people there. And he actually ends up hitting his head and busting the side of his head. I believe it was this side. And he just starts bleeding. And Bret did not let up. Bret just kept pounding on him and pounding on him, punching him in the head, had the chair in there, was going to keep going, had the ring bell. Austin didn't go. He kept fighting. He showed why he said he was the toughest son of a bitch ever. And he kept fighting at a point where he actually got Bret down, suplexed Bret. Then he went to the outside, got the cable cord, wrapped it around Bret's neck, was choking Bret. But Bret ends up hitting him in the back of the head with the ring bell, so Austin goes down. Bret works on him a little bit more, and then he puts him into the sharpshooter. And this led to the most iconic moment. And you see it in every WrestleMania package after this. Austin in the sharpshooter, fighting back, trying as he's starting to pass up. But then he gets that last moment of adrenaline. He pushes himself up. He's screaming and just the crimson mask on his face. But then Austin fades. Austin passes out. And Shamrock's like, "Do you submit?" And there's a few times in this match, Shamrock had to get involved because they were literally like on each other and wouldn't back off. And Shamrock called this down the middle. And then he rang the bell. The moment that everyone remembers, Austin did not give up. Bret won the match, but Austin never tapped out. He never submitted in this match. And this match did four things. 1, it turned Bret heel. 2, it turned Austin into a face, made him the most beloved superstar in history. When they say Stone Cold was the most famous, the most cheered superstar, that's not a lie. It's not an exaggeration. This match, it put Austin in a completely different stratosphere than where he was going. I don't think if this match happened, Austin would have ever become champion. It also did 2 other things. It made Austin look like a badass. It put Austin over with the company and with the fans. And number 3, it made Bret the most hated man in the WWE. Now, after the match, Bret kept trying to attack Austin, kept hitting his legs, and Austin is just laying there, lifeless. Shamrock pulls him off, so Bret kind of walks away. Austin gets back up, some officials come in to help Austin, and Austin, being Austin, gives them all a stunner, or gives one of them a stunner, and he walks off on his own power. This was not the last time you would see Bret Hart in this night. So next they do an interview. Well, before I go on, Vince McMahon, when all was said and done, said something that made me go, really? Really? You could tell that Vince was not ready to let hold of his gimmicks and was not ready to move on. Because he says, and I quote, we're not proud to bring you this match, but in a match like this, you just never know what's going to happen. However, though, you had JR, who could take a piece of shit, as like in the next match, which wasn't a great match. It was probably the weakest match on the card, but he could take anything, and he pumped it up and put life into it and made it bigger than it actually was. JR, being in this commentary, made this match that much better. Vince was an okay announcer, but you could tell he said things because he wanted certain things to be said. He was the chairman of the board. Anyways, so Farouk has an interview, and he's with the Nation, and he basically says that he's going to make Legion of Doom and Ahmed Johnson his bitch. That's basically what it gets down to. And you're going to see everything to include the kitchen sink because they brought that too. So yes, you get the Chicago Street Fight. And this match, like I said, it ended up being Farouk with Crush and Savio Vega against the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and Ahmed Johnson. This was towards the end of Ahmed's run. He didn't last too much long after that. He ended up in WCW eventually. But this was just a brawl. These guys, they were in this to maim each other. Lots of moves, Farouk getting put through tables, fire extinguishers to the face, like covering and blanketing the entire ringside area. It was not a 5-star classic. It was sloppy at times, and there were so many people, and you kept getting interference from other members of the Nation. This is when you were seeing D'Lo Brown before he was an official active competitor. Let's see. They fought all over the arena. You saw how Ahmed Johnson was a very agile guy. And it is kind of a shame that he didn't get better time. I mean, he was the Intercontinental Champion. I guess that counts for something. But, and like I was saying before, JR took this match that wasn't that great and made it sound really, really good. Yeah, Johnson putting Farouk through a table. But it ends with Ahmed Johnson and Hawk clotheslining crush with a 2x4. A real 2x4. Clotheslining with it, and they got the win. And then after the match, they took the rest of the nation, and they pretty much just kind of did what they felt like they wanted to do with them. So, this led to what would be the main event. HBK came out. Vince McMahon was all over HBK's junk, talking about how great he was. And you had King like, oh, he's still in the spotlight, which wasn't a lie. Shawn was still in the spotlight, trying to make this about him when he was coming out. Now, when I first watched this years ago, I didn't think about that with Shawn, but the more I've gotten into wrestling, the more I've heard the backgrounds and things that happened behind the scenes, I've learned that Shawn was a bit of a arrogant prick at this time. And of course, Shawn changed, and I'm sure he's still kind of a prick and arrogant, but he's earned the right to be that way now, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Then they had an interview with Sid. It was short. He botched it. He was like, "This is the biggest event in the world, universe." And he put out that he ain't scared of The Undertaker. He's not afraid of the darkness. But how many people have said that? So then The Undertaker comes out with every time I see an Undertaker entrance, it gives me chills because it's got that mystique and that aura to it. And every year, WrestleMania tries to make Undertaker's entrance better and bigger. Then, of course, Sid came out to a decent ovation. Sid was not a bad guy, per se. He was supposed to be the heel, but he was the heel that you wanted to root for because he was just kind of cool. Except in this instance, Sid was facing The Undertaker, probably the most respected performer in WWE history, especially when it comes to WrestleMania, with the streak and everything. But then Brett came out and was talking about how, hey, Shawn, go find your smile, but don't get involved in this match. And then telling Undertaker that when you slam that door on my head, you slam the door on our friendship. It's a horrible Bret Hart impression, just saying. And then he told Sid that I'm the best there is, best was. I should be the champion, blah, blah. And then Shawn had to, see, it's the whiner Bret Hart. He really made Bret look like a whiner, and they made Bret look like a whiner in this. Made him look like this whiner. But what does Sid do? He punches Bret, and he gives him the power bomb and tells him to take his whiny ass to the back. So then you get to the match. It was physical. This match was physical. There was never one moment in this match that really stood out. It was exchange of blows with Undertaker and Sid for about 20 plus minutes. These guys just pounded on each other. Eventually, Sid was able to take a little bit of control. Like I said, they just slugged it out on the outside, in the ring. At one point, they actually got into the crowd a little bit, and they were just... It was not a wrestling clinic. It was punch, kick, punch to the face, punch to the gut. It was two big men. It was what you were going to get. If you were to rank it in WrestleMania main events, it would probably be in the 20s somewhere, if you were to rank all the main events. But it had that mystique and that aura because it had been so long since The Undertaker had been the WWE champion. I think he was the champion in 91, and it had been 6 years since he'd been the champion. And this was his first title shot since 94. So, well, no, he had a title shot in 96. But this was a big thing for him, and it was on WrestleMania. He was not the Royal Rumble winner. The Royal Rumble winner was Austin, but Austin gave up his title shot for the Four Corners match. Let's see. Like I was saying, these men, they fought. And with it being WrestleMania, you saw them putting their hearts and their souls into this match and really showcasing that this was important to them and that they really wanted this. Sid hit the tombstone on Undertaker at one point, and Undertaker kicked out. Undertaker chokeslammed Sid a couple times, and Sid would kick out. I mean, neither man was willing to give up in this match. But ends up, Brett comes out. hits Sid with a chair. Undertaker runs him off. Undertaker takes control. Sid gets control back. Is getting ready to powerbomb the Undertaker. And Bret comes back out. And I kind of couldn't tell when I was watching it, but I want to say that Bret actually grabbed Sid and pulled him down over the ropes. And Sid just bounced back and right into a tombstone piledriver. And Undertaker got the victory. Some would say that maybe that was tainted, but I don't think so because it was the Undertaker. Everyone has a reverence for the Undertaker. And you saw that when, after the match, he got a standing ovation, and the crowd showed their respect to The Undertaker and showed that, hey man, you deserve this victory. You deserve to be where you are. You probably hear sirens. The cops are coming for me. They're coming for me. And yeah, like I said, he got the standing ovation. So all in all, this WrestleMania, I'm rating them. I gave I think a 7 out of the last one, which I think might have been a little low. But this WrestleMania gets a solid 8.5 out of 10. Easily 8.5 out of 10. While I may have WrestleManias that are higher inside my list, doesn't necessarily mean overall it's going to have a higher score. It's just, it was, for me, I liked it better, but I'm being objective with my scores, if that makes sense. So that is it for this review of WrestleMania 13. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now, a quick announcement. I did some at the beginning, and I'll remind you, we have a Twitter page, at YoBro Gaming and Reviews on Twitter, YoBro Gaming 1 on Twitter, YoBro Gaming and Reviews on Facebook. And next week, I'm not going to have just one episode. I'm having episode 3 and 4 of this series. I got about 6 weeks and 8 videos to finish. So there's going to be a couple weeks with 2 videos each Saturday. So look out for those next week. And anyways, like I was saying, thank you all for watching this video. I am Zach. All our social media down in the description. Subscribe to our channel. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I will see you all tomorrow for my preview and predictions for Fastlane. Till then, thank you. Peace out and God bless America. Bye-bye, guys. My name's Roman Reigns. Always don't go Austin. I am 27 seconds. I've worked. Save me. Save me.